Indian stock market has tanked. The Indian rupee has found a brand new low, and all over the world in stock markets, people are saying, what is Trump thinking? This is what is happening. In the last 48 hours, he's not bluffing. He has brought in extra tariffs against his upstairs and downstairs neighbors, so Canada and Mexico, and added 25% tax or tariff against anything that will be imported from these two countries, and an added 10% from anything that's been imported from China. Now, according to the Trump administration, this is because he believes these governments are aiding illegal immigration into his country, and also for the illicit fentanyl trade. Quick pause, I'll tell you what is fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid or a drug or a narcotic. It's apparently 50% stronger or more powerful than heroin, and it's also cheaper and easier to make. And US Drug Enforcement Agency has accused China of allegedly being the main source of all fentanyl-related substances trafficked to the US. They've said it's the leading cause of death among people aged 18 to 45 in their country. Now you know what that is. Let's go back to the story. The tariffs are going to be in effect or kicked in by Tuesday. And here's why everybody is surprised, because obviously as soon as this gets kicked in, it will raise the prices of almost everything across the US and on the shelves of their supermarkets. This is why. Because let's assume a Walmart is importing, right? And Trump keeps saying that the tariffs will be paid by the country, but the tariff will be paid by the importer. So Walmart will import from China and pay an extra 10% on everything that's imported and pass on that extra cost to the customer. So the average American will actually be paying more for all of these things that are currently being imported. And a lot is being imported from these three countries, from China, from Canada, and from Mexico. And this is going to obviously increase inflation across the board, which is odd, because Trump had actually made inflation part of his campaign, saying that Biden had resulted in record-breaking inflation and he's going to bring it down. This will lead to inflation and job loss and a slower economy. And one wonders why he's doing that and if he's actually thought this whole thing through. Now, he's done this also without congressional approval, as he's done many other things, and he's used a special law that allows him to bring in emergency changes, if he believes the economy is in trouble. But he's acknowledged that this will result in some pain in the beginning. Now, let's take a look at what's happening with India, right? India was not mentioned in that February 1st order that he signed, although he has mentioned India's, sort of trade policies in the past, because he believes India's trade policies are in some cases unfair. Remember, in India, what we do is, in order to protect our domestic market, we add tax on something that's coming from overseas so that the Indian customer will prefer the Indian product. He believes that that is unfair. Now, the reason why India was not mentioned is probably two things. One, we know that our Prime Minister is visiting the US later this month, and it's likely that these trade agreements will happen in negotiations in person. Secondly, in the budget that was announced on Saturday, India has already knocked off some of the tariffs on products that we tend to import from the US. So motorcycles, for example, ground installation for satellites, synthetic flavoring essences, among other things, sort of sending a signal saying, hey, we're willing to talk. You don't have to take these sharp measures. Also, India doesn't have a large illegal immigration problem. India has also said that if verified as people of Indian origin, then India is willing to take back any illegal immigrant that, the US might have found. In the meantime, though, we've had other impacts. Our stock market has tanked, both the Sensex and the Nifty. Our Indian rupee is now past 87 rupees for a dollar, so 87.1 is where it is. And the depreciation is being attributed to the fact that the US dollar has become stronger because of these tariffs. Among the Indian stocks, our PSUs took a big beating, our infrastructure stocks have taken a beating, and our oil and gas companies have taken a beating. Also, if inflation goes up, what will happen is that the US Fed will keep their rates high and more foreign funds will flow out of India and into the US. We've lost 1.7 lakh crore rupees foreign investors from the Indian market recently, and if the dollar continues to strengthen, that is likely to continue as well. But there is a larger problem. If the US market weakens because of inflation and their economy doesn't do well, that will hurt, of course, the entire world, because US is a big consumer, and that's not good for people in India either. But there's a silver lining, and the silver lining is this, that if Chinese products are being replaced on US shelves, then Indian exporters have a good opportunity here to take advantage. According to one study, India is likely the fourth largest beneficiary of any trade diversions from China to India. And so this might be a good opportunity for India to take advantage of that. Remember, India tends to export a lot of pharmaceuticals. 21% of our exports from India to the US is pharmaceuticals. Gems and jewelry is a big sector, and that is likely to benefit as well. Shrimps and prawns are our third big sector, and we also send a lot of clothes and fabric as well to the US. This is now a good time for India to consider other manufacturing also. But for as far as these tariff announcements are being made and the dollar is strengthening and the markets are reacting, then we still are going to take a beating on many of these indirect fronts. And that's the status of what's happening so far.